Here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day, and it's a special one. It is a much-anticipated episode here on the channel, Week 1 preview. Philadelphia Eagles playing host to the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night to kick off the 2025 NFL season. Can't wait for this game. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us because myself and producer Chip, we will be live for an Eagles-Cowboys watch party right here on the program. Gonna go live 90 minutes, 2 hours before the game for a pregame show. We'll be live for the game, and then we'll react to everything with the postgame show as well. Can't wait to see all of the real ones there. And the stage is set at Lincoln Financial Field. Kickoff is set for Thursday night, September 4th in South Philadelphia, 8:20 p.m. Eastern, 5:20 p.m. out there on the West Coast. Philadelphia, 7.5-point favorites in this game. There's been a little bit of movement after the Cowboys traded away Micah Parsons. The over-under for this ball game set at 47.5. That information here to my right for all of the bettors out there. And of course, Philadelphia won Super Bowl 52 back in 2017, and they raised a Super Bowl banner. On Thursday night, there will be a second banner being raised at the link in front of a raucous crowd with around 70,000 people in attendance, and it's going to look so beautiful to see 2017 world champions and 2024 world champions. But don't tell Eagles center Cam Jurgens that. Here's what he said about the pregame Super Bowl ceremony. Obviously, we know that Nick Sirianni has told his entire team that last year was last year, and that Super Bowl championship was in the rear view. Cam Jurgens echoing that, saying, who gives a damn if we're hanging something or whatever? We're playing the Cowboys. What other motivation do we need? Love that from Cam Jurgens. I have really liked the Eagles' mental makeup coming off that Super Bowl last year, but they know this is a new team and a new season heading into 2025, and they're ready to try and repeat as world champions. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys will look a little bit different. Blockbuster trade a few days ago, trading away Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers, who gave him $47 million per year, $188 million in guaranteed money. He becomes the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of football. The Cowboys get back 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. There's also some injury news on Micah Parsons. He's been dealing with a semi-serious back injury. He might have to get an injection in that back prior to the Packers taking on the Detroit Lions in Week 1 on Sunday. But of course, anytime Dallas is without one of the top pass rushers in the game, it is a big deal. And it certainly impacts this Cowboys defense going into 2025 as a whole, but certainly heading into Week 1 for this Eagles-Cowboys matchup. Jordan Mailata said this about preparing for this Cowboys defense that is without Micah now. It's a sigh of relief, he said, chuckling. And he said, I say that as a joke, but at the same time, it's just kind of crazy. The last 4 or 5 years that we've played the Dallas Cowboys, we've come up with a game plan because of Micah Parsons and because he is a gamer. So it's a sigh of relief that you don't have to plan like that anymore. However, that is a talented defensive line and a challenging defense. You've got to treat them with the same respect with or without Micah Parsons. They've now got Kenny Clark there. He's been in the league a long time. He's a great bloody player. And can you imagine Jordan Mailata saying that in an Australian accent? He's a great bloody player, mate. So now we've got to figure out how he affects our game plan and how we can control that. And Kenny Clark is a really good player. He's not Micah Parsons, one of the top overall players and defensive players in the National Football League. But Dallas, as we're about to talk about here, has been awful against the run, and Kenny Clark will help this Cowboys defense in trying to stop what was last year a potent Eagles rushing attack. And when you scout the Dallas Cowboys here, it is a new era. Jerry Jones said this after they traded away Micah Parsons. The coaching staff is new. A majority of their roster is new. Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach, replacing Mike McCarthy, who the Cowboys did not retain. Brian Schottenheimer is going to call the plays. He's been the OC for Dallas, but he didn't call plays because McCarthy did. On the defensive side of the rock, former Bears coach and prior to that, Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus is now the defensive coordinator for Dallas. The 1-2 punch at wide receiver for Dallas is legit. CeeDee Lamb, say what you want about the Cowboys. He's one of the top wide receivers in the game. And George Pickens is a lengthy, long, tall, physical wideout who can go up and get it, but he can really run. And he's put up really good production with suspect bad quarterback play. And so Dallas has been in need of a good number 2 to go in lockstep with CeeDee Lamb, and now the Cowboys have that with CeeDee and George Pickens. So they're going to test this Philadelphia Eagles secondary. But running the football for the Cowboys has been a problem. They did draft Jaden Blue, who can really fly, but he had a soft tissue injury in that final preseason game. We'll see what his status is for week 1 on Thursday night. Outside of that, they have Javonte Williams, who was awful last year for Denver. They have former Eagle Miles Sanders in that backfield as well. But combined with a suspect offensive line and a mediocre running game, they do have some questions running the football going into 2025. And also, when Dallas has been a great team, whether it's in the 90s when they won those 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, or when they've been competitive since the turn of the century, they have leaned on and relied on a stout offensive line that can really wear you down throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game. But that offensive line also has question marks going into this year. Some things to remember going into this game on Thursday night. Some marquee Eagles storylines going into this year, as they are the defending Super Bowl champions. On offense, a lot of continuity, a lot of familiar faces. 10 of 11 starters are back here this year, coming off a year in which Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. The only starter who is not with this team who started for Philadelphia in Super Bowl 59, Mekhi Becton. He's with the Chargers. Tyler Steen is in there at right guard. He had a great training camp, and it looks as though he is finding his stride as a football player. On defense, you do have coaching continuity because there were no changes to the defensive coaching staff. But Philadelphia, personnel-wise, has to replace more than 4,000 snaps lost from last year's defensive unit, a team that was the number 1 overall defense in the National Football League. It's looking like Adoree Jackson is going to start at corner 2, opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. All signs indicate that. And that's been a big question mark all throughout the summer, preseason, and during training camp. Also, we don't know, as Vic Fangio didn't really reveal anything today. He said, I'll leave it up to Nick Sirianni to give away our starting lineup. On top of Adoree Jackson, or whoever starts opposite of Quinyon, who starts at inside linebacker alongside Zach Bond? Who starts at safety alongside Reed Blankenship? Some question marks there. On offense, yeah, you have a lot of the same starters coming back, but you do have a new offensive play caller in Kevin Patullo. He's overlapped with Sirianni going back to their days with the Colts. He's been with this team since Sirianni came to Philadelphia in 2021. He has played a huge role in Philadelphia's offensive game planning and in-game decisions, but he's never called plays in a regular season game as an offensive coordinator. And so him replacing Kellen Moore is going to be a difficult test here in 2025. Also, elsewhere, how do the Eagles handle being the hunted and not the hunter? It's always different when you are the defending Super Bowl champions. I'm looking for Jalen Hurts to take a little bit of a leap as a passer. I thought last year he was underrated. In the biggest of games, when the Eagles asked him to spin it and throw the pill, he did so, and he passed those tests with flying colors. But in order for this Eagles offense to duplicate their success, to continue to evolve and be one of the top units in the NFL, I want to see them a little bit more balanced, and I want to see Hurts more consistently play like he did in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley, he was the Offensive Player of the Year last year. He was top 5 in MVP voting. How will he look, though, this year, coming off a year where he led the NFL in touches? We know that running backs can seemingly lose it overnight and become old overnight. But by all accounts, he has looked awesome all throughout training camp, and that's a good sign. Philadelphia also, since Sirianni came here in 2021, has had some tremendous injury luck. In Super Bowl 57, all 22 starters from opening day started in the Super Bowl. This past year, Super Bowl 59, 21 of 22 starters who started opening night in Brazil started in the Super Bowl. The only thing that can keep the Eagles, in my opinion, from potentially going on this dynastic run is if they suffer from all of these injuries. And we know that the NFL stands for National Football League, also stands for not for long. So hopefully Philadelphia can continue to stay healthy. And also, this schedule is a gauntlet. How will the Birds endure a tough schedule? Those are some of the marquee storylines that come to mind for Philadelphia going into 2025 as they embark on this new year coming up here on Thursday. Some other Eagles notables. Landon Dickerson did not participate in practice on Monday. He has made this very quick recovery coming off that meniscus surgery. He's participated in previous practices over the last couple of days, but today on Monday, few days out from Thursday's opener, it was Brett Tauth working at left guard without Landon Dickerson. He's one of the top guards in all of football, and he impacts this Eagles passing attack and running attack. Tanner McKee still not throwing. If he cannot be QB2 on Thursday night, it will be the recently acquired Sam Howell, who I imagine since that Sunday trade has been deep into the Eagles playbook trying to learn it as quickly as possible. And there's some roster juggling that might take place here. For instance, if Tanner McKee can't play, Sam Howell becomes QB2. But then, in order for Kyle McCord to be the emergency quarterback, he will take up one of the practice squad game day elevations. And so that means that Philadelphia at a different position won't be able to elevate a practice squad player potentially. For instance, a Britton Covey, who is currently on this practice squad right now, and the Eagles do have some question marks going into the season opener. Who will be their punt returner? Britton Covey, who the Eagles brought back, he was one of the top punt returners in the game in 2023, wasn't with this team in 2024. He was first up today on Monday, getting the reps at punt returner. Interestingly enough, after him, it was Cooper DeJean who handled punts last year. A.J. Brown was fielding punts. So too was Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson. I think that is an emergency situation. You don't want A.J. Smitty or Dotson out there. Vic Fangio doesn't want DeJean out there, but they need reps in case something happens to Britton Covey. My guess on Thursday night, Britton Covey back there returning punts for Philadelphia. So much more to get to here in our preview as Avery crushing it as a producer here today. But I want to hear from you. Who you got in this football game? My prediction is coming up at the end of this preview. Type DAL for the Dallas Cowboys or PHI for the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming up next, just around the corner, my keys to the game in order for the Eagles to pull out a win. Also of note, Nick Sirianni in his Eagles head coaching career, a perfect 4-0 in season openers. Keys to the game coming up here just around the corner. But our sponsor for today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, our friends at PrizePicks. We really appreciate them for making today's show possible. You and I make decisions every day, right? But on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good and great to be right. PrizePicks is also very simple to play. You can get your picks in less than 60 seconds, and all you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. And here's some examples of player call-out projections, and obviously they're subject to change every single week, so please check the app for the latest squares, but this is how the more or less game is played. Saquon Barkley, more or less 1 rushing touchdown. Joe Burrow, more or less 2.5 passing touchdowns. Josh Allen, more or less 270 passing yards. Doesn't that sound like a lot of fun? It is. Join the millions of people who have signed up with PrizePicks and sign up today. PrizePicks also invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. PrizePicks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which players aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, we continue to move forward with our Eagles-Cowboys Week 1 preview. And what I want to get into here next, my keys to the game and how the Birds can beat the Dallas Cowboys. So let's segue there. Coming up here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, my name is Chase Sr. My keys to the game for how the Philadelphia Eagles can take down the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night in the season opener to move that record to a perfect 1-0 to begin the 2025 campaign. And let's begin here. Philadelphia must establish the run against a bad rushing defense. And we know this Eagles rushing offense, led by Saquon Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year, top 5 in MVP voting, was potent. And I think Jalen Hurts deserves a lot of credit for Saquon having the year that he had in 2024. Obviously on top of this Eagles offensive line. Even without Mekhi Becton, still in my opinion, the best unit in the National Football League heading into this year. And so a lot of the Eagles' success on offense this year is going to hinge on the success of their ground game, which naturally can open up the pass game. But especially in this Week 1 matchup against the Cowboys, it's an area that the Eagles can exploit because the Cowboys' rushing defense in 2024 was one of the worst in the NFL. And I know that they bring in Kenny Clark in the Micah Parsons trade. He is going to help along the interior, but I still don't think this Cowboys rushing defense is going to be leaps and bounds better than they were last year. Take a look at these numbers here to my right. Rushing yards per game allowed last year for Dallas, 137.1 per ball game. That was 29th among 32 teams. Rushing first downs per game, 8.3, second to last in the NFL. Rushing touchdowns allowed all season long, 25. That was 32nd, dead last in the National Football League. Yards per rush, 4.8. That ranked 28th. And rushing DVOA, the Cowboys were 29th. There is no reason why Philadelphia should not be able to find success on the ground game on Thursday night against Dallas. Key to the game number 2, and this is really a big matchup, the Eagles wide receivers against the Cowboys banged up corners. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, and I'm going to throw Darius Cooper in there. But the Cowboys do have issues at the cornerback spot. Also keep in mind with Matt Eberflus, they're introducing a brand new defense as well. Trayvon Diggs had chondral tissue graft surgery this offseason on the same knee where he suffered that ACL tear in 2023 right after he got that big contract from the Cowboys. Deron Bland. The Cowboys didn't pay Micah Parsons, odd, but they did pay Deron Bland, who a couple of years ago was fantastic. Last year, his play dipped a little bit, and he was banged up. Yeah, he got that nice payday, but he also had a stress fracture in his foot last year and wasn't the same player once he came back. And then Kyer Elam, who is their number 3 corner, has just 12 starts in 3 years. A lot of draft pedigree for him. Going into the NFL, he was drafted high by Buffalo, but he's been inexperienced and he hasn't played a lot. And of note, he couldn't earn a lot of snaps for Sean McDermott and Buffalo. And McDermott, who came up under Andy Reid in the early 2000s and was once upon a time an Eagles defensive coordinator and didn't fare well for him, is a defensive-minded coach. And those are the Cowboys starters, right? And Diggs is expected to play, but there's a chance he doesn't. The Cowboys' primary backups are also all hurt. And so the Eagles running it should be able to find success as we talked about. Throwing it, they should be able to find success as well against the Cowboys defense that without Micah Parsons could be bad here in 2025. Key to the game number 3, it's the Eagles corners against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Obviously, Quinyon Mitchell played at an all-pro level last year as a rookie. He's going to be on the outside. Cooper DeJean is one of the top slot corners in the NFL. He'll be on the inside. But we're not positive who is going to start on the outside at corner 2 opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. It's all pointing toward Adoree Jackson, but in the preseason, he didn't really fare well. And there was a reason why the Titans, who drafted him in 2017, didn't retain him. Why the Giants elected to let him walk and go elsewhere in free agency. He's kind of been a so-so average to sometimes good player, but CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are great players, and it's not just those two. KaVontae Turpin is also one of the top punt returners in the game and specialists, but he's also a very explosive player who can turn garbage into gold. He can be gone in a blink, and he can be an explosive playmaker who can take the ball to the paint, to the end zone at any moment. And so you feel very confident about Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. You don't really feel confident at corner 2. And just because Adoree Jackson might start, we're going to see some Jacorian Bennett. We might see some Kelee Ringo, especially when the Cowboys go with 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. That's a big matchup going into this game. Another key to the game, the Eagles' defensive line against the Cowboys' question mark of an offensive line. And this is an Eagles defensive line that lost Josh Sweat in free agency, lost Milton Williams in free agency as well. And so to a certain point, this is a new look and unproven Eagles defensive line. Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt were awesome last year, but Nolan Smith was in year 2. Jalix Hunt was a rookie. And so they're a part of this new look Eagles defensive line that showed a lot of flashes last year. They look like they can be legitimate players, but can they do it as starters? Can they do it as the top 2 options? Can they do it for an entire season? Along the interior, you know what you're getting from Jalen Carter, second-team All-Pro last year. He could go down as one of the top Eagles defenders of all time. I'm expecting a breakout year from Jordan Davis, who came on the halfway point and on last year. I think Moro Ajomo is going to be one of the top interior defensive linemen in all of football. But again, some of these are projections. We're hoping that Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt can be great. We need to see it first. This Cowboys offensive line, again, a lot of question marks here, and they're a little bit banged up along the offensive line. So we'll see who can go. But when everybody is right, Tyler Guyton is their left tackle protecting the blind side of Dak Prescott. He was really up and down last year coming out of Oklahoma. Tyler Smith, certified dog. One of the top left guards in all of football. But Connor Beebe at center, he's going up against an Eagles interior. I like the Eagles interior going up against Connor Beebe. Again, there was some good and bad with him last year. He's a young, unproven player, but there were some question marks around his game. Tyler Booker, loved the tape at Alabama, absolutely hated the pre-draft testing numbers. As an athlete, pretty mediocre. And then Terrence Steele, a massive question mark at right tackle. So the Eagles should be able to win the battle in the trenches on both sides of the ball. But again, we'll see what happens on Thursday night. An X factor for this Eagles pass rush, rookie linebacker Jahad Campbell. Vic Fangio is going to find a way to use him in a variety of ways. As an off-ball guy in coverage, but look out for him as a delayed blitzer, as a set-up pass rusher, but as a blitzing linebacker as well. And if the Eagles struggle to manufacture or generate a pass rush with their normal pass rushers, look for Vic Fangio to get creative with ways to utilize Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond, who are kind of that modern-day off-ball linebacker who can do a bunch of different things. I'll also say this is another huge key. The special teams battle will be important. Brandon Aubrey, best kicker in football. He can connect from 65 to 70 yards. KaVontae Turpin, punt returner and kick returner, he's really special as a return guy. And his approach is really interesting too, right? Sometimes he can start his return slow, lull the coverage unit to sleep, then he turns it on in a hurry. And for the Eagles on the other side, we don't know who the punt returner is going to be. You have a new long snapper who's not even on the 53-man roster. Jake Elliott struggled a little bit last year. And so if this is a close game, what will the special teams battle come down to as far as the Cowboys and the Eagles? Going into this one, you probably give the edge to Dallas. And then another huge key to the game. The Philadelphia Eagles must pressure Dak Prescott. I know that a couple of years ago, he was very efficient during that 2023 season. Of course, they got bounced in the wild card round, and he corrected his mistakes in being a turnover-prone quarterback. But Dak Prescott has a long sample size of giving the football up to the opposition, especially when he gets pressure. He is not the same mobile quarterback that he used to be when he was a young player. He is more of a statue in the pocket, especially coming off that torn hamstring. And so if you generate a pass rush on Dak Prescott, he will put the ball up for grabs and he will give it away. And if Philadelphia is able to get pressure on Dak, you have to feel good about your chances in manufacturing turnovers. His season was cut short last year for Dak Prescott. He's still in a limited season. I think he only played 8 full games, threw 8 picks and 11 touchdowns. He was not good. And so my weekly keys are always this. I know Nick Sirianni, he has his motto, right? Tough, detailed, together. But he also preaches, and the Eagles practice a lot, ball security and forcing turnovers. That was a huge pillar of what the Eagles did last year. And I have that same philosophy, right? My weekly keys going into this game and every game. Ball security, turnovers, keep the ball out of harm's way, play clean, fundamentally sound football. If the Eagles do that, I think they'll be victorious. And in the NFL, when you win the turnover battle, you win about 80% of the games. So my prediction for this one, week 1, Eagles, Cowboys. I think it's close for a little bit as both teams play each other out. Keep in mind, Cowboys going to have some new elements offensively, defensively, a new scheme, coordinator changes, and new play callers on both sides. And then for Philadelphia, they didn't play any of their starters throughout the entire preseason for the most part. And so this game could be sloppy to start. But I think talent and depth and coaching will win out throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game. Eagles pull away in that second half. 33-17 is my prediction for this week 1 tilt. Can't wait for it. Don't forget to watch our watch party on Thursday night. It's going to be lit. Go Birds.